Hi guys, welcome to the Watchlist stream. I'm Nymfria, and with Game Week 25 complete, it's time to start thinking about double Game Week 26 with some Watchlist players. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Kylie. How you doing, buddy?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm glad to be back. We had a lot of fun last week, so keen to kick it off again.
Yeah, absolutely. With a massive double on its way as well, and plenty to think about for the coming weeks. What will we be attempting to cover today, Kylie?
So, as usual, we will be looking immediately at the game week ahead and then beyond. This is, of course, our big double game week, or I think our biggest so far, certainly given that the infamous game week 22 double did not turn out to be what it was meant to be
Yeah.
because of all those postponements. So, this is kind of our biggest one to date. So we're all quite excited. There's lots of people looking at chips to deploy. What's the best strategy? We've, of course, got Jota news that is impacting a lot of people. I can already see in the chat someone has asked about it. On that, I don't know, it looks like 2 weeks. So problematic for this game week, obviously. Typical. I mean, I don't have Jota, so like Nim and I just before the stream were talking about this. I've got Robbo, so I was like, that's great.
I know. I think it's gonna like give me like a -8 to get to him, like to Robertson, if I want to make the switch.
And he may not play both. This is the risk. So
like if I knew he was going to play both, then you're just like, oh well, go for it. Get 3 double game week players in for a -8. It kind of feels like a no-brainer, but you don't obviously know the Robbo is definitely going to play both, so then it makes life so much harder, and it's just like, I would have been okay if Jota was only going to miss one, but as you say, it looks like it's going to be 2 weeks from, well, we don't know that for definite. It's just like on the grapevine that it's going to be 2 weeks, so it makes life a lot harder, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, that's by and large what we're going to be looking at. And of course, as always, the information that we have on the stream is basically what's out there at the moment. So, of course, please do keep up to date on everything else happening, because we never know what news will drop quickly. And Jota is obviously one of those key things. And there's, of course, press conferences. So there could be any other news. I guess before we kick off, we can have a look in the chat and say hi to a few people who are there. So we've got FPL Focus. Hey, how's it going? Buddy. There's Mig. Nice to see you there. With Josh Forster, IRL Sakina. I am so sorry if I butcher any names. Shakalaka Meka Leka. That's amazing. Try saying that too fast.
Yeah. After a few. That'd be a good one.
Right. So I think that's going to be our cue. We're going to get straight into it, and we'll, of course, dip in and out of the chat as we go. So if you do have questions, flag them. And if we miss them because we're juggling things, then just keep flag asking them again. Yeah, we'll get to it.
Okay, then. Yeah, so our first pick is a player that has made our watch list once before, and we're hoping he delivers this time, and that's Cornet of Burnley. I haven't really looked at Cornet for my team because I was so focused, Kylie, on Weghorst as an option. And of course, it was that injury that kind of changed all of that thought process. Now, I think there's some talk that Weghorst could be okay now, that he's done some light training, that he might be back, but I think as we weren't sure about that, we went slightly safer with the Cornet pick in this particular instance for the watch list. He is a great, nice, cheap midfielder at 5.9 million. You know, I think he has the double-double, so that's great. I'm sure Kylie will touch on that in a second. He's crazily low-owned at just 0.9%. I mean, that's just crazy. If he was to do anything in the first double or the second double, I mean, that's happy days, isn't it, really? And he has great fixtures, right, Kylie?
I mean, he does. This is really, let's be honest, it's the reason anybody's looking at Burnley for anything. You know, they've not exactly been the most thrilling team, frankly, at either end of the pitch this season. But they absolutely need to get results. We've emphasized this before. They are in the relegation scrap. They do have loads of fixtures, including this mythic double-double. Brighton was supposed to have one. It fell through. So here we are with Burnley. So they've got that. It's Brighton and Spurs for 26. So that's the first one. And then it's Palace and Leicester in 27. So they're not amazing because these are all teams that can score. But they're not terrible either. I mean, let's be honest. It's not like they've got City and Liverpool or anything. So there is some potential for returns there.
Yeah.
They do have a further 2 to be scheduled as well, and that's Villa, Everton. Again, not bad fixtures to drop in. And, you know, by and large, they've got a pretty good run. So I think really on paper, he could be a good option. We're going to dig into a few of the other details. I think one of the issues, Nim, that everyone would agree with is the injury history, right? And what that means in terms of how many minutes you're going to get out of him over the next 4 games, that double period, that's a cause for concern. Absolutely. I think that's why Weghorst, I have no idea if that's how to pronounce his name. It's the first time I've had to say it.
We got away with it last week. We're not getting away with it this week.
No. I think the appeal of him was that viable alternative. And of course, up front, because strikers are, we've talked about it a lot, frankly, bit crap this year. So he would have felt maybe a slightly more stable option. That there feels an element of risk associated with Cornet just because of the injuries, but big upside if it comes through.
Absolutely. Yeah, you touched upon those mixed minutes there, and recently he has had 45 blank, 90, 68 and 90 in the last 4 games. But he did manage to score in his 45 minutes against Leeds. So, you know, there's potential there. He's still Burnley's highest scoring midfielder with 57 points, which I'm not really sure says much about Burnley, really.
I think scoring against Leeds. I mean, Everton scored, 3 against Leeds? So I don't think that's a ringing endorsement either. Sorry, Leeds fans. No. I do love Leeds, but they're defensively a bit shaky.
Yeah, I think only Pope has more points than Cornet this season with 72.
Side note, vindication for Pope. For everyone who questioned us last week.
Yes.
And then I think it was literally right after we all got off the stream last week when the 27 double news dropped. And I was like, yes.
Woo. Yes. We were like, vindication, double, let's go.
Absolutely.
What's Cornet's stats over there then, Kylie?
Yeah, okay. So his stats aren't amazing, right? XG 1.91 and an XA of 0.62 for benefits of podcast listeners who obviously can't see it on the screen. Only Watford have scored less goals than Burnley's 3 over the last 6 games. And that's obviously a result of Roy Hodgson coming in and basically solidifying Watford's defence and therefore destroying any attacking potential of their, king, and more so Dennis. So that doesn't bode well at all. And in fact, their total attempts on goal during that period is 58.
Wow.
That's half of Liverpool's in that 6. Liverpool are like 108 or something. So
I'm not sure we're selling this whole Cornet pick here.
No, I'm sorry, but I'm looking at what the stats are telling me, and this is what they're telling me, So they are worst for that, I think. They're second worst for shots on target in that period, and they've had 16 of those. So that doesn't look super compelling from a Burnley perspective. I do think that we're seeing an improvement, maybe not necessarily in attack, certainly in defense, and that can breed confidence, which could ultimately give them a bit of buoyancy that they need. And I think that urgency factor is coming through. More positive for Cornet really is the fact that he's had 12 attempts on goal in the last 6 games, 5 shots on target. That's not too bad. And I think also, given the fact that we're right here, 2 days from the double game week kicking off, Jota injury, Martinelli annoyingly went and got his red card. So where maybe there wasn't necessarily an open midfield slot before, there is now. I mean, we're going to look at some other options later in the stream, that kind of sit in that same spot. But like the reality is Burnley don't have blanks. They've lots of doubles. So if you're so inclined, he's not a bad punt to replace one of those who aren't really working at the moment.
Yeah. And Marcus says in the chat, they've not won a game since October.
Yeah, right. So Marcus is agreeing with my
yes.
I'm supposed to be endorsing. We're not endorsing, we're discussing.
Yeah, we're kind of putting a name out there, and
on Twitter certainly you're seeing, and I imagine in the FF Scout community as well, you're seeing his name come up quite a lot. So it is worthy of discussion as to whether he's someone, and I think he can take the punt. I think you just need to be moderate in terms of your expectations.
If he scores one goal in one of those games, happy days. At that price point, he's not going to break the bank, and you're probably laughing. It's going to get you.
If he shows up,
points.
It's not too bad, right? Yeah. Let's be honest. If he gets the appearance points, it's a decent baseline.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we'll move on to our second pick, and it's Tierney of Arsenal, an attacking defender with 2 home fixtures that look good on paper, right, Kylie?
Yeah, they do. I actually really love the Tierney pick. So they've got Brentford and Wolves for the double, right? Wolves, from an attacking perspective, not a great fixture because obviously they've been defensively resolute. But from a defensive perspective, they don't score a huge amount of goals. So there's potential there in both of those matches for a clean sheet. We know that Tierney has attacking threat, and we'll cover that in a bit. But I think the main thing that might put people off is that game week 27 blank. It's obviously coming right after. Tricky because Liverpool and Arsenal do have the best fixtures for the 26 double.
That's really
and
annoying.
Then naturally they're the two that miss out. I mean, there's more that miss out, but they're the prominent two that miss out in 27. But I think, after that, their fixture run is so good for the rest of the season. It's near criminal, right? They've got Watford, Leicester, Villa immediately after, a sea of green, and that runs right the way through to the end of the season. The only caveat to that is that while they have 3 remaining fixtures to be scheduled, it's against Liverpool, Chelsea, and Tottenham. So the 3 to be scheduled, not so great. But let's be honest, they're being dropped in as doubles, so it's kind of a bonus. And all the rest of the fixtures are really good. So I think in that respect, he's pretty compelling. Again, a bit of an injury cloud over him. And I know you're a bit reticent about him.
Yeah, well, Tierney is always a player I get nervous to own as an Arsenal fan. It's kind of this mixture between him being made of glass and me not wanting to break him, pretty much. But as you say, he's an absolutely great pick for this particular double because, as far as we're aware, he's all good. He is a little on the expensive side at 5.1 million, but his attacking threat warrants that, I feel. With Weghorst out, I've been deciding if to invest in another defender with a double. So considering like another Wolves defender, because I already have Kilman, so maybe Nori, Tarkowski, or of course Tierney. Tierney is higher owned than I had imagined, to be honest, with a TSB of 12.8%. So that's more than the likes of Ramsey, Kane, Watkins. That's a lot higher than I would have expected. Someone needs a bit of encouraging to go for him. What are his overall stats looking like?
So it's a bit confusing, right? Because actually, if you look at his XG this season, it's 0.59. Now, he is a defender, in fairness, right? And his XA is 1.06. Like, that is quite confusing given how we associate him with being attacking in general. But over the last 6 matches, he's had 7 attempts on goal. 4 of them have been on target. And in fact, those 7 attempts are second best for defenders. The only one ahead of him in that metric is actually Van Dijk of Liverpool by 1. He's on 8. So that's a bit random. So you can see that he definitely shoots. I mean, I think anyone who watches him play sees that happen, even if they're not always going in. He's one of those players that has, the potential to just have a whopper game week. I mean, we've seen it before. I think he's had an 18-pointer before. So maybe last season. So I think it's there. And you kind of just have to hope that this is the week that he delivers on it. I mean, Arsenal's defense has been tight. We've talked about this a lot. Last 6 game weeks, they are joint top for clean sheets on 4 with City, right, who are largely heralded as the best defense in the league, and rightly so. They're second best for goals conceded in that period. So they've only conceded 3 goals, which is, again, really good. Yeah. Also, just behind City on that one. They are top for shots on target conceded over all teams. So in the 6 weeks, they've only conceded 12 shots on target, which is really impressive. They are third behind, I think it's City and Liverpool, for total shots conceded with 60. And they are also joint top for big chances conceded. So defensive metrics look really, really good, which is what you want. It's a baseline. Those attacking returns are a bonus, but he is actually going and attempting them, and the fixtures line up really nicely. So between all of that and their XGC, which is third best over the last 6 game weeks, again, it all ties into them being pretty consistent performers from a defensive perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Tierney isn't actually our top scoring defender this season. That's Gabriel. However, Tierney had that stint of about 6 weeks out with his injury around game week 9. So, you can bear that in mind. He has managed a goal and 3 assists this season. So that's pretty good. One of those goals and one of those assists coming in the last 4 game weeks. So there's some recent form there. Are you considering Tierney for your team, Kylie?
I'm not, and only because I would have to take another hit to do it. And if I did that, it would essentially mean, while I'd have 10 double game weekers, I'd have to bench one of Cancelo or Bowen. And I'm currently set up to have 9 doublers plus the 2 of them. I'm really happy to play the 2 of them. Last time we had a big double and I free hit, I benched Bowen and I didn't have Cancelo on my free hit, and they both absolutely destroyed me.
Yeah.
So I have PTSD from that, and I'm not doing it again. That's the only reason that I won't get Tierney in, because if I did, for instance, if I didn't have the Liverpool double up with Robbo and Trent, then I probably would have brought Tierney in, because I really do fancy him to do well in this double. And I think if you can get through 27 with him, and maybe bench him depending on who you've got, getting him for that run of fixtures as well, I just think that he'll do well. I am also surprised at his ownership, because I feel like I know one person who has Tierney.
Yes.
And I just really thought that he would have been sort of max 6%. But there you go. Obviously, there are people out there
outside of the community that
are like doing a lot better than I am.
Yeah, this Tierney guy, he's pretty damn good. Yeah, we're all like Robertson, Cancelo, not paying any attention whatsoever. But maybe I could be persuaded. Obviously, I now have a bit more of the headache with Jota and Weghorst obviously potentially now being fit, so everything's still a bit more up in the air for me. But yeah, maybe I could be persuaded to go for our guy.
Or maybe not. Nuclear Adams there. What if Tierney gets shattered during the game week? Don't say that.
Oh, no.
And not
I will. Yeah, not because he's a team. Yeah. Arsenal would. Yeah, like just literally when you're reading out those stats for Arsenal there, Kylie, I was just like, please do not mess this up, guys. Like, we have a serious chance of getting top 4 here. Like, I wasn't even thinking about Tierney. I was just thinking about the team.
It's like you don't want any changes. It's just like everyone just keep going as you are.
Exactly. Just keep doing your thing, lads. Okay, let's move on to our third pick. And it's Sarr of Wolves. So we're getting a bit keen on adding these goalkeepers in recently.
Yeah. There seems to be a lot of them.
I know, they're sneaking in. Sarr's just been amazing this season. I think he's been left behind because of double game week goalkeepers like De Gea and spotlight keepers like Ramsdale, as you were just saying. Arsenal have done really well in defence. Is it tad pricey at 5.2 million, but, not the most expensive. But a nice differential at just 7.6%. I'd like Sarr, but I'm all in with my keepers, Ramsdale and De Gea. But if I was wildcarding, I'd probably go for him. His fixtures look good, Kylie.
Yeah, they do. They look really good. He's kind of that combo of fixtures and form. So One big benefit, of course, unlike Ramsdale, is that they don't have any blanks. They do have an immediate double right now, and well, not right now, but this game week with Leicester and Arsenal. It's not the easiest fixtures on paper by any means, because while Leicester are woeful defensively, they have been scoring lots of goals. They've been super attacking this season, and we expect that Arsenal will score. So I think it sounds tricky, but again, Sar's one of those who's kept a clean sheet in sort of unexpected matches. So I wouldn't necessarily write that off as not having potential.
Yeah.
They've got one additional fixture to drop in after this double, and it is Watford. So that's always lovely. Basically a guaranteed clean sheet, right? Surely.
Hopefully. I say with 2 Watford forwards.
Yeah, there's still so many people that have 2 Watford forwards, actually. I've only the one now, but oh God, I can't wait to get rid. That's a segue completely. Yeah. It's a largely really good run for them. Mm-hmm. They do have fixtures against City and Chelsea later in the season, so they will be a bit tricky. But again, you don't expect Wolves to get absolutely smashed. So I think, especially if you are someone, we touched on this last week when we were talking about Pope. If you've got De Gea and maybe a Sanchez or a Foster or someone, it means then that you don't have double. I mean, Foster has double game weeks, but let's be honest, right? Certainly De Gea at his price, you're really not going to want him probably to be your primary keeper. In your case, it's fine, Nim, because, he's kind of your backup to Ramsdale, who does have these doubles.
And I don't think I'll have both of them going forward when I wildcard, because I still do have my wildcard, so
you can go cheaper. Yeah. So I think a lot of people are going to want to move one on. Mm-hmm. And I do think if you're not going Ramsdale for any of those reasons, you've got Pope and Sarr as the standouts. Sarr definitely from the better team and has been, in my opinion, completely outstanding this season. We all keep forgetting about him. I don't know why. Yeah. And there's really not much difference in price between Sarr and De Gea. So I think if you don't trust the Burnley defense, then that kind of eliminates Pope, and you really should consider Sarr.
Yeah, so it's kind of why I went Kilman a few weeks back, actually, was that Wolves defence, because I really liked the look of them. Sarr's played 90 minutes of every Premier League match for Wolves so far this season. He's got 9 clean sheets for the season and a sneaky assist to boot as well. He's only conceded 17 goals this season. Now, considering Meslier is topping the list with 46 goals conceded, you can see that Sarr is doing really well on that scale. Looking ahead, do you have some stats that could help us with Sarr, Kylie?
Yeah, so kind of what you were alluding to there, he's done so well. He's actually the second highest scoring goalkeeper this season. So he's only 1 point behind Edison, right? And Edison obviously has kept more clean sheets. Mm-hmm. City are usually the top team for clean sheets. So that's a reflection not only of how well he's done, but he's been getting saves and everything as well. Yeah. Over the last 6 games, as I said earlier, I think they're joint second for... Oh, no, I was talking about Arsenal, because I was like, this statistic is the same, but they're actually joint with Arsenal for goals conceded.
So maybe Ramsdale and Sarr, or Pope and Sarr is the way forward.
maybe. But then you're going to bench one of them for clean sheets. It's a nightmare. True. So they're joint second for clean sheets as well, with 3. And what's interesting is if you look at the other metrics, so attempts conceded, shots on target conceded, XGC, I think their XGC is 7.06 over that 6-game week period. They've only conceded 3 goals. All of that amounts to the fact that other teams are getting through the Wolves' defense, and they are able to shoot, but they're just not getting past Sarr very easily. So it kind of reflects what a great keeper he's been, which I think anyone who's watched him would agree that he's made some terrific saves, and he's been really, really commanding for Wolves between the sticks. So I think all of the stats support what we're saying here, that actually... You're not just going to go change a keeper for the sake of it, because there's so many transfers to make, so much going on. But if you are in the market for one, he just seems like someone that you can pop in for the rest of the season and not think about it. And I think it's probably a good bit of money spent.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, and I think Christo Farie, would you play Brozier over King? I think I would, Kylie. What about you?
Yeah, so I mean, actually, this little pickle myself. It's okay. Dennis, not King. Mm-hmm. And I have Brozier, and I have much more faith in his ability to score. I think he looks so good, and I just think I'm probably benching points here this week. I think I'm more inclined to play Dennis despite his recent red card or sending off 2 yellows than King, because he still does seem to be the best chance that Watford have for scoring. But I think if it was King, even with 2 matches, I probably fancy Brozier more. Okay. I mean, it's a risk.
Yeah.
Because King will play both. Mm-hmm. But I think there's good upside on that, because I would be shocked to see a return from King at the way it's going.
Absolutely. BE0576 says Weghorst or Cornet. Now, we were kind of up in the air about which one to add to our watch list this week, Kylie. If Weghorst is fit, would you edge more towards one or the other?
So I think someone had popped in the chat earlier that he was seen in light training.
Yeah.
Which almost would make me more nervous, because it's like light training.
Good point.
You know, like I
think he'll have limited minutes probably in the first match, and then they'll probably judge it based on that as to what he gets in the second.
And I mean, the reality is he does have the double in 27, so you're kind of future-proofing your team there if you get him in. And I think if he's fit, he probably plays more minutes than Cornet. I think it's so much to do with your team. If you have a midfield slot and you're really scrambling to find someone, Cornet could be a really good fit. Yeah. If you're determined to make a forward transfer, then maybe it's worth taking the punt on Weghorst. But there are qualifiers to each, which make it a little bit tricky.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Okay, it's that time of the episode where we're going to have a quick look at the Fantasy Football Scout watch list ahead of Game Week 26, which you can find on the first page of the website. It takes into account players' position, their form and fixtures. With that in mind, what's standing out for you on this week's Scout watch list, Kylie?
I actually have to pull it up. I'm sorry, guys. I'm usually more organised than this, but it's just one of those weeks. You know,
it's all good. I've noticed that Weghorst's movement, despite his injury, he's made his way, up the list, which I think is really interesting, because I think the tendency would be that potentially with that injury that he wouldn't be on a lot of people's watch lists. But it's
and he's actually gone right up into 4th. Yeah. But again, I think that's probably a reflection of how disappointing the forwards are. I mean, it's interesting to note as well, Pope has gone into number 1 spot on that chart. I can't remember where he was last week, but he definitely wasn't as high as that. So that's obviously a nod to the double. And interestingly, you can see Sanchez and De Gea below that. I imagine that that's going to change this week. So if you keep an eye on that watch list, you'll probably see that Sarr and Ramsdale, probably Sarr because he doesn't have the blank, goes up into 2nd, because let's be honest, Sarr's
so we don't have the goalkeepers on this particular graphic, but you can catch that graphic on the website. But Ramsey sneaking into the watch list, I thought was pretty cool for the midfielders, and Brozier finally making it above King, which I thought was, that might answer your question from earlier, to be honest.
There you go.
Absolutely. Do we have any comments or questions in the chat before we just move on?
Okay, there's a comment here from Geo Boys. Deitch was more positive than that, expects him to be available. Okay, that's interesting. So that's obviously about Weghorst. So
I read it a little more like he was on the kind of more positive side of that light training rather than the negative, which is why I feel like he might have limited minutes, whether like he'll start and then come off early, or come on towards the end of the match and then they'll take it from there, is kind of what I'm feeling from the comments.
I can see quite a few questions in here as well. So someone's asking Diaz to Gabriel or Tierney. I wouldn't. No. Now, I would usually advocate for jumping in on a double, especially a double as good as Arsenal's.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that Diaz and City, like, they could easily keep a clean sheet. They play next week when Tierney and Gabriel won't. I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
If it was, Dawson or someone like that, then I would.
Yeah.
Right? And someone also said, would you take a hit for Soufal to Saiss? I actually quite like the Saiss pick because I could see him getting a goal because we know he has goal threat.
Yeah.
And again, you could keep him for a good long run. So...
Although just be aware of those West Ham defenders, because I last week sold Dawson and bought Webster. So I actually sold a scoring defender for a scoring defender.
That's right. I actually got Dawson off the bench.
Yes, you did.
I never
so I was
get
kind of happy
points,
for you. And to be honest, I got a clean sheet extra out of Webster, so I can't moan too much.
Netted out.
Yeah, I did net out in the end. Okay. All right, I think it's time to move on to our watch list picks for the double game week 26. Who is your pick this week, Kylie?
Right, so I've gone for the little love bug. I love him so much.
Yes,
I just want to give him a hug. He's so adorable, and he just always looks happy.
He does.
Of course, Saka, right? So, again, I've talked about how I really like the double for Arsenal. Obviously, again, Wolves fixture is not amazing from an attacking perspective, but I still think with their fixtures beyond, he looks really good. He's 6.4, which is so cheap, right? Given what he is capable of, and 14.5% owned. So he's not like a differential, but that's still quite low. So you can get really good gains. So it's Brentford and Wolves for the double. He then blanks, and then it's Watford straight after. So as long as you've kind of got a plan for how you're navigating 27, which I think people will have at this stage, they'll have worked that out. So if you're in a position where you can get an additional player from Arsenal, I think he looks really good. I won't cover all of the fixtures like in detail again, because we covered them with the Tierney pick.
Yeah.
But his XG of 4.97 and XA of 3.36, 6 goals, 5 assists, not bad given his price. I think most would agree he really should have more than that, because there's a lot of matches that you watch and he's maybe frustrated owners a little bit in periods, because he always looks so involved and so like he's going to come away with a haul, and he doesn't always. But I just think with the price, it's kind of hard to argue with any of that. He's had 19 attempts on goal in the last 6 matches, so rather than game weeks. That is second highest in that metric. Only Salah has more, and bear in mind I'm talking about Salah's last 6 matches as well, so that sort of excludes that period that he was gone. And really we have to look at things in terms of matches with data at the moment, just because they're still pulling in weird game weeks where certain teams didn't play. It just makes it all messy. The only thing that I would say about that is that the 19 attempts, only 6 of them were on target. So it's about a third. It's not, he's not the most clinical. But as long as he's still firing in attempts, I still think that you can't go too far wrong. And again, right, we were talking about Cornet as a possibility for your teams if you've got Jota injured. Saka looks perfect. And anyway, if you had Jota, you had to have a plan for what to do in 27. You're just swapping to someone else. Team Saka.
Yeah, I think... Atoms has put here, haha, the Arsenal fan didn't choose Saka. No, we did discuss this, and Kylie loves Saka, so I let her have it. But I don't think he's a bad pick at all. I think for myself, it's just that I'm not really wanting to use a chip potentially in game week 27 and to hopefully get through that. So I'm not discounting the Saka pick, but it's obviously needs a little more planning if I decide to go for him, because he will have that blank where I'm not, free hitting or trying to, find somebody else potentially for that place. But if I can cover having him in for, say, somebody like Jota, and I can potentially sell somebody somewhere else to kind of place him on that bench where Jota would have been anyway, then, as you say, Arsenal's fixtures after that are just really nice. What happens in terms of rotation worries me slightly, because we do have a lot of fixtures and a lot of games, but yeah, I think
he feels less risky than the alternatives.
Absolutely.
And I think
that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think the reality is, with so many fixtures for so many teams, like, rotation's going to happen. It is. So you're just hedging your bets and trying to go for the one that you think will get the maximum amount of minutes. And when we're talking about attacking players, they can still return off the bench. So I probably wouldn't overstress. I mean, look, Saka is coming into my team. So I'm obviously...
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, guys. Just letting you know.
That's true. That's true. Although I did bring in Robbo, and I have done very well out of him.
Yes, that's very true.
But I'm not having an incredible season. So maybe do you know what? No one gets Saka. Let me have him for myself.
Well, 15.5% do already have it. So, he's already fairly decently owned. But yeah, no, I think he's a good shout. I've gone with Jimenez of Wolves. With the Weghorst injury and him potentially being, out, and Kane not delivering last game week, I started to look elsewhere for an Antonio replacement, and Jimenez fits that kind of double game week bill. So anyone who's seen my team selection video on my channel at the beginning of the week would have seen that, I planned to get him in. He has Leicester and Arsenal in that double, so I'd be hoping that he turns up some trees in that Leicester match, given... Mostly because Arsenal have kept 11 clean sheets this season, as you said, only behind Liverpool and Manchester City. So it might be tough for Jimenez to score by us, given we've tightened up a lot at the back, which is something we definitely needed to do. Leicester, however, have only kept 3 clean sheets so far this season. So,
I didn't realise it was only 3, but I was only looking at stats, and they are so far away, the worst defense. And what happened to Sancho? I'm sorry, I don't understand. I don't. They're so horrendous.
Yes,
I'm really sorry, Leicester fans.
Yeah, and so I think, just considering Jimenez, just based on that one fixture alone, if we weren't looking at double game weeks, and him scoring that goal last week, you'd like to think there's a good chance that he could get something there. He has West Ham then to follow after the double, and Watford to be rearranged as well. He has scored 5 goals and 3 assists this season, 2 of them coming in the last 4 game weeks, so recent form. He did miss a game against Brentford recently, but has an XG of 5.21 and an XA of 2.27. So when he plays, he definitely has a chance of getting returns. And I mean, they are good stats for that particular price range at 7.4 million. He's looking better than many forwards in that price point. Absolutely. I mean, I know everyone has gone a bit Weghorst crazy, but I really like the Jimenez pick. His minutes are mixed. There have been there's been some ins and outs and stuff like that, but they are getting better. They're definitely improving, and he's a great differential at just 5.7% own. I mean, many will be put off by the Arsenal fixture, Kylie, but is he in your consideration at all, or do you think he's a good pick?
He's not in my consideration, again, because I'm, to be honest, trying to avoid making transfers up front, because it just does feel a bit like jumping from one to the other. I think if you own Antonio,
yes, I do.
Yeah,
who I've kept the faith with for far too long now.
I only got rid of him like 2 weeks ago for Edouard, who's been absolutely useless, but it's somehow less annoying to me than Antonio doing nothing. I think, it's like, maybe it's the saved money. I don't know.
I think he's cheap, so I'll let him away with it.
It's fine, whatever. I don't expect goals from forwards anymore anyway.
Yeah. No. I mean, what are they?
Absolutely pointless. I think the thing that I do like about Jimenez is that he does have that feeling of being a fairly stable, if maybe not ultra exciting pick. I think if you have Antonio still, then he's a good shout, particularly given the whole Veghurst question mark thing. He's not underperforming against his XG. It's pretty on par with what he's actually returned this season. It's more, I think, just a season's gone by before the head injury. We obviously saw him being more prolific, and that's just a reality, right?
And Arsenal is where that head injury came. So, like, in a weird kind of roundabout way, how great would it be from a football perspective if he was to come back and do so well against Arsenal? I mean, not that I want that to happen for Arsenal, but I mean, just as a football fan in general, and a Jimenez fan, because I do like the guy, it would be kind of cool to see him do well against Arsenal.
He's having attempts, so he's had 11 attempts over the last 6 game weeks, 6 of them on target, right? So that's more than 50% shot accuracy, which is really good. So I think that if you're in that position where maybe you've got all your forwards lined up, you've got all your defenders lined up, and you've got a bit of dross, as we all do, up front, and you just want to get someone in that you feel like you can just leave there, he's not too expensive, and see what he does, then I think he's a good pick. It's just, for me, I'm not touching forwards at the moment.
Yeah, and that's fair. I've noticed that Nuclear is pushing Firmino quite hard on the forward front. I mean, if we'd maybe known about the Jota injury a little earlier, he may have made his way onto the watch list. But we still haven't had any confirmation that it's definitely 2 weeks yet. So we will hopefully get that Jota press conference with Klopp tomorrow and know a little more on that. Okay, well, that's it. Best of luck for the upcoming game week, guys. I hope you absolutely smash it. Before you go, here's Kylie to wrap us up with some admin.
Yeah, okay, so please, as always, leave a comment with any players that you're considering. Let us know who they might be. And please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed the show. We really enjoy doing it, and we've had great fun chatting with you guys in the chat. You can find links to my content and Nim's below as well. And basically, we just wish you the best of luck this game week. Hopefully, it's a double that is positive and not another letdown.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.